Good morning, Year 8, and welcome to today's maths lesson. Hope you've all had a great Easter. I'm going to start us off with a quick starter. Can you find for me a half of 200, a quarter of 200, a hundredth of 200, and 3/100ths of 200? Pause the video for a minute and have a go at those. Okay, let's go through some answers. A half of 200, I need to take 200 and divide it by the denominator, so divide it by 2. 200 divided by 2 is just going to give me 100. For the second one, I want to find a quarter of 200, so this time my denominator is 4. So I'm going to do 200, I'm going to divide that by 4, which is going to give me 50. For the third one, I've got 1/100th of 200. 200 divided by 100 just gives me 2. And for the last one, I said find 3/100ths of 200. If I know that 1/100th of 200 is 2, 3/100ths is just going to be 2 multiplied by 3, which is going to give me, what, Logan? 6. Lovely, let's go into today's lesson. So this is where we're headed for today. We're going to look at percentages and percentage scores. To start me off, in your dark blue books, can you please write percentages, and can you do a spider diagram of everything you know about percentages? Do you know a definition? Do you know any other maths topics it might relate to? Do you know the Latin it comes from? Do you know where we see percentages in real life? What does a negative percentage mean? What does a percentage over 100 mean? And what are percentages usually measured out of? Please pause the video in your dark blue books, have a think about these questions. Spend about 5 minutes on that now. Okay, let's go through some possible answers. A definition of percentage. So percentage just means parts per 100 or ratio out of 100. We're looking for that 100. Parts per 100. Other topics it could relate to, you could have had fractions, as we look at fractions of amounts and percentages of amounts. Also, it relates to decimals. You may have come up with some other options, however those are the ones that I thought of. In terms of coming from the Latin per and then cent, per is the Latin for out of, and cent is just the Latin for 100. So you can see where we get our definition from. Our definition comes from the Latin per cent. Where do we see percentages in real life? Well, there's loads of places you could have come up with. You could have come up with in a shop where you get 50% off, for example in a sale. You also see it in banks. Often if you're talking about percentage interest or percentage on loans, it comes up a lot in banks. A negative percentage just means a decrease in the percentage. A percentage greater than 100% means that you've got more than a whole of it, so it's an increase. And we usually measure percentages out of 100. Please can you make sure you've got the definition in your dark blue book and any other information you'd like to have in there for interest. Okay, in your dark blue books, can you please write the following? Fraction to percentage is make the denominator 100. So underneath the title, converting between fractions, decimals and percentages, can you write fraction to percentage and make the denominator 100? Pause the video and do that now. Okay, so you know how this works. I'm going to do an example and you're going to do an example. So pens down, everybody. Yep, that includes you, Theo. Pen down. Right, I've got 7 over 20 and I want to make the denominator 100. Violet, what have I done to 20 in order to get 100? Multiplied by 5, lovely. Whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. 7 times 5 gives me what, Bradley? 35, brilliant. So 7/20 is the same as 35%, because as we said earlier, percent means out of 100, 35 on the top, so 35%. In your dark blue books, can you have a go at the example below now? Okay, let's go through the answer. Again, I want to convert my denominator to 100. 10 times what gives me 100, Alicia? Multiplying by 10, lovely. Jonas, 3 times 10 is what? 30, thank you very much. So 3/10 is equal to 30%. Please make sure you've got that example in your dark blue book now. And then when you finish that, have a go at these practice questions in your light blue book for me. If you don't have your light blue book, you can do it on some scrap paper, or if you've got a mini whiteboard, welcome to do it on that instead. Spend about 10 minutes on these questions for me now. Pause the video, off you go. Okay, these are the answers. Please check how you did. Tick and cross your answers. And we're going to move on. So sometimes we've got some other types of percentages we're trying to convert to where we can't just multiply the denominator by a single number. So in your dark blue books, we're going to carry on under the same title. To start with, I'm going to do a few examples and then you are going to do a few examples. So pens down and looking at the board. 6/10, just as before, I'm going to put that over 100. To get from 10 to 100, I've multiplied by 10. Doing the same to my top number gives me 60. So 6/10 is going to be equal to 60%. The next one I've got is 6/5. Now 5 times what gives me 100, Xander? 5 times 20 gives me 100. Do the same to the top. 6 times 20 is going to give me 120. So 6/5 is actually 120%, which we shouldn't be surprised by, as 6/5 is above 1 and 1 would be 100%. For 6/20, what have I multiplied 20 by to get 100 this time, Libby? 5, lovely. Do the same on the top, Vicky. What's 6 times 5? 30, thank you very much. So this one would be 30%. Aha! But now I've got one, 6 over 30. Now 30, I can't multiply that by a whole number to get 100, so I've come unstuck. However, what I can do is I can divide it to give me something over 10. If I divide top and bottom by 3, 6 divided by 3 is going to give me 2. And now I've got 2/10. And I can convert that to something over 100 by multiplying by 10. So that would give me 20%. I can do the same for 6/60. I can divide top and bottom by 6, which would give me 1/10, and then I can easily convert that to 10 out of 100, or 10%. For my last example, I've got 6 out of 600. What do I need to do to 600 to give me 100? Lily May, what do I need to do to 600 to give me 100? Divide by 6. Whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do on the top. 6 divided by 6 would give me 100th, so that one would be 1%. Pause the video, and in your dark blue books, can you please have a go at these for me? I'm going to give you 6 questions, 6 minutes. Pause the video, off you go. Okay, let's go through some answers. I've got 8/10. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 10. This is a nice easy one. We should have got 80 out of 100, which would give me 80%. Now for the second one, again, we've got a fraction over 1, so we know it's going to be over 100%. We're going to multiply top and bottom by 20, which will give me 160 out of 100, or 160%. For the third one, I had 8 out of 40. I can't just multiply top and bottom by an integer. I'm going to have to divide by 4 first to give me 2 out of 10, and then multiply by 10 to give me 20 out of 100, which I know is 20%. For the next one, I've got 8 out of 400, so this time I'm going to divide top and bottom by 4 straight away, which would give me 2 out of 100, which is 2%. Notice this is 10 times smaller than the one before, so we had 8 out of 40 was 20%, but 8 out of 400 is just 2%. 8 out of 80, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 8 to give me 1 out of 10. I'm then going to multiply by 10, which will give me 10 out of 100, which equals 10%. And finally, 8 out of 100, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 8, which gives me 1 out of 100, or 1%. Fantastic. Switch now to your light blue books and have a go at these questions for me. Pause the video and spend 10 minutes or so working your way through them. Okay, these were the answers I was looking for. 70%, 140, 14, 1,400, 770, etc, etc, etc. Please pause the video and mark your work. Notice that some of these have got decimal places in them. For example, 30 over 80, I could have divided top and bottom by 8, which would give me 30 divided by 8. Which is 3.75 over 10, which I then would have multiplied by 10 to give me 37.5. Look out for these ones, you may well have a decimal place in it. Same for 60 out of 800. For this one, I would divide top and bottom by 8, and 60 divided by 8 would give me 7.5. So that's how I've got 7.5%. Okay, in your dark blue books, can you write for me decimal and percentage with an arrow going from your percentage to your decimal? How do we convert a percentage to a decimal? Well, we divide by 100. That's all we need to do. You know how this works. I'm going to do an example, you're going to do an example in your dark blue book. 82% as a decimal, I need to do 82 divided by 100, which is going to give me 0.82. Over to you in your dark blue books. Can you convert 81% to a decimal for me? Okay, hopefully you'll have done 81 divided by 100, which gives me 0.81. So now we've learnt how to convert a fraction into a percentage and then take that percentage and turn it into a decimal. Pause the video and in your light blue books, can you have a go at these questions for me? Spend about 5-10 minutes on them, shouldn't take you long. Okay, these are the answers I was looking for. Please check your work, tick and cross and see how you did. So each each time we've just divided by 100 to go from the percentage to the decimal. So if to go from a percentage to a decimal, we divide by 100. In your dark blue books, can you show me a decimal to a percentage arrow? And what do you think we need to do? If we divided by 100 to go from percentage to decimal, Izzy, what do you reckon we need to do to go from decimal to percentage? Indeed, we need to multiply by 100, the opposite. So you know how this works. I'm going to go through an example, then you're going to go through an example in your dark blue books. So if I've got 0.37 and I'm converting that to a percentage, I need to do 0.37 times 100, which gives me 37%. In your dark blue books, can you have a go at the other example for me? Convert 0.38 to a percentage. Okay, hopefully we'll have done 0.38 times 100, which gives me 38%. Fab! Please switch to your light blue books and have a go at these questions for me. What do you notice about decimals greater than 1? So all the ones on the right hand side, what do you notice? Convert these decimals to a percentage for me, spend about 10 minutes and pause the video. Okay, let's go through some answers. Here are the answers to the ones on the left hand side. You shouldn't have had too many problems with those. So all the ones with a decimal with 1 point something or 2 point something give us a percentage that's greater than 100%. And we're going to use that in the future. So what is 100% as a decimal? Convert from a percentage to a decimal, we need to just divide by 100. So 100% as a decimal is just 1.0. 200% as a decimal, again we need to divide by 100. So 200% would be 2.0. In the same way, 300% would give us 3.0. 350% is just 300% plus 50%, which gives us 3.5. And we're going to use those in a later lesson. Can you now please pause the video and have a go at this example for me? Okay, let's go through the answers. The first then says, Anil scores 33 out of 60 on paper 1. So 33 out of 60 as a fraction looks like this. I want to put this as something over 100. To help me out, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 3 to start with, which would give me 11 out of 20. And then I can just multiply top and bottom by 5, which would give me 55 out of 100. So for paper 1, he's looking at 55%. For paper 2, we've already got it out of 100, 75 out of 100. It's just 75%. You did way better in paper 2. 75%. I then asked you to work out his percentage score for the exam. Now to work this out, I know that my total is 160, because 100 plus 60 gives me 160. And the total marks that he got were 33 plus 75. 33 plus 75 would give me 108. So we know that he's got 108 out of 160. We can now divide that. If we divide 108 by 16, that'll give us something out of 10. So I've got 6.75 out of 10. I can then multiply top and bottom by 10, which will give me 67.5%. 67.5%. You might have chosen to do that in another way. You might have converted it to something over 20. There are lots of different ways of doing it, but the answer I was looking for is 67.5%. That's the end of the lesson today. Please now have a go at the exit ticket provided on Google Classroom. Thank you very much.